Mutated Yautja Origin explored. The mutated predator was an abomination who came into being after being bitten by Eldin, a mutated construct who came into contact with black goo, the liquid storehouse of all the genetic makeup of the world. Naturally, the mutated predator also got infected with the black goo. The event left him horribly transformed in the apex predator who once lived his life by the Yautja code of honor, was now devouring his own. Furthermore, the cannibalistic monstrosity had grown increasingly powerful and developed several weird limbs and body parts. In this video, we will explore the 4 issues of Alien vs. Predator: Fire and Stone, a comic that details the origin and end of the mutated predator. Let's begin, shall we? But before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a very small click for you, but for us, it means a whole heck of a lot. So thank you, and let's begin. Prelude to Alien vs. Predator: Fire and Stone. In a faraway solar system, predators land on a lush green planet. Their search for strong and worthy prey had brought them to a planet with monstrous beasts, who were creatures with several long horns, shiny red eyes, and long, sharp teeth. But as would be expected, the predators don't really break a sweat while slaying these hideous beasts. However, the predators find the track of another ship, an engine core vehicle named Geryon. Now, the story of Geryon started in Prometheus: Fire and Stone, which was the very first story in the Fire and Stone series. Geryon was the ship that brought a salvage vessel named Cadmos, a patrol ship named Perseus, and the command ship called Helios, to LV-223, the resting place of Peter Weyland's craft from Ridley Scott's film. But since Peter Weyland's mission to discover the origin of humanity ended in disaster, Angela Foster, the captain of the command ship Helios, decided to finish what Weyland had started. However, LV-223 was not what they expected. Instead of a barren moon, they found a planet thriving with life, so much that even the mountains were alive and growing as organic bodies. So, what was the reason behind such a miracle? Well, the moon was actually the place where an engineer ship had crashed, and the resulting impact spilt innumerable canisters of black goo. Most people watching this video would know about black goo and engineers, but for those of you who are uninitiated, let's explain. So, engineers are supposed to be an ancient race, probably as old as time itself. Apart from being highly powerful and intelligent, their technology is highly advanced. So much so that even predators would kill each other for a bit of engineer tech. The engineers travel around the universe to spread life as they see fit. So, how do they do this? Well, they have something called the black goo, which is basically a liquid that contains genetic codes. Its composition was best described by astrobiologist Francis Lane, who was a part of the crew of Helion. Referring to the black goo, he once said, "It doesn't just have genetic makeup, it has every genetic makeup, all mixed together. Some I don't even recognize, but others are very terrestrial, and it's aggressive, churning." So you see, the black goo is basically the substance that leads to the creation of life in a barren celestial body. Nevertheless, in the second issue of Prometheus, Francis injects his mutated construct named Eldin with a syringe of the black liquid. Eldin undergoes an immediate and rapid mutation, both physically and mentally. He develops several horrific new body parts, for instance a jaw with razor-sharp teeth that opened in his abdomen. Although Eldin's sanity was not entirely lost, he had become a powerful being with the singular agenda of extracting revenge on Francis Lane. But Francis was arrested and taken to Geryon because he had introduced an alien biochemical liquid to a fellow crew member. Probably not the best thing to do. Prometheus: Fire and Stone does not end well for most humans, and only Captain Angela and 2 of her subordinates survive. The chief security officer Galgo and 2 of his men betray their captain and escape LV-223 on Geryon. That is the very ship that the predators intercept in Alien vs. Predator: Fire and Stone. Geryon, a nest of otherworldly monstrosities. It was January 22nd, 2219, and the Geryon armada, including Cadmos and Perseus, was drifting away from LV-223. The only ones alive on the ship were Galgo, 2 of his men, and their prisoner, the astrobiologist Francis Lane. Galgo and his friends had recently abandoned their colleagues on LV-223, an offense that authorities on Earth would have taken quite seriously. Naturally, Galgo was now going to concoct a new truth to tell when he had reached back to Earth. The journey back to Earth would have taken a couple years, and Galgo planned to get into cryosleep until then. But before that, he needed to put Francis as well to cryosleep. While taking Francis to the cryo tube, Galgo asked why he had infected Eldon with the black liquid. The reason was that Francis was dying of cancer, and he thought that the black liquid would be the only way to get a new shot at life. Eldon's construct physiology was strong enough to sustain the mutagenic effects of the liquid, and his blood was supposed to be a refined form of the black liquid, something that only fixed diseases without making the subject violent, hostile, or crazy. Nevertheless, Francis Lane had failed his construct friend, turning Eldon into one of nature's worst nightmares. But it was done now, and now all Francis wanted was to get back to Earth. However, Galgo and Francis face the shock of their lives when their spacecraft Geryon comes to a halt mid-space. It turns out that Eldon was behind the event because he had taken control of Helios, the command ship. Through radio communications, Eldon explains to Galgo and Francis, "I'm in the Helios, the command ship. It controls everything as long as you're attached to the Geryon." He wanted Francis. Soon Eldon was on Geryon, and he would have tasted his revenge had it not been for the breach alarm that went off. Eldon thought it was one of Galgo's tricks and attacked the two men with the help of xenomorphs that he had brought along. But Francis managed to escape with the help of the engineer weapon he had came in possession of in LV-223. But why did the breach alarm go off? Well, the 5 predators who had intercepted Geryon had now boarded it. The predators started looking for Galgo and Eldon, who were the only worthy prey on Geryon. However, the ship's constructs started attacking the predators, but this did not end well for the former. They were easily overpowered and butchered by the predators. Meanwhile, the xenomorphs were slaughtering the other humans on the ship. As Eldon had promised earlier, there was enough blood to quench the thirst of each xenomorph entirely. On the other hand, one of the predators found Galgo and Francis. He attacked Galgo, which caused Francis to go into hiding, but Francis used his engineer weapon to knock down one of the predators before escaping. Eldon kept wandering through the ship looking for Francis, who was hiding in one of the shafts, but the predators were hot on Eldon's tail, and finally, they managed to corner the mutated construct. The creation of Mutated Predator. One of the predators fired his plasma caster, the impact of which created a massive hole in Eldon's abdomen. It probably should have killed him, but Eldon simply regenerated into his whole self again. Even Eldon was unaware of these powers and abilities that his body possessed, but apart from the regeneration, his abdomen also developed a maw of sorts, complete with razor-sharp teeth. Anyway, Eldon had just proven that he could very well be immortal, and he used his strengths to put up a strong fight against the predators. However, the predators soon learned that it was best to take on Eldon as a team. One of them tackled him from behind, holding Eldon off with an arm around his abdomen. But this proved to be the last sane thing that the predator ever did. The maw on Eldon's abdomen grew and bit the predator. Eldon kept fighting and killing the predators. The sheer brute power that Eldon possessed was shown in one of the panels where Eldon simply tears off a predator's jaws with his bare hands. In the end, only one predator had survived. He came forward and marked Eldon's forehead with the predator's blood. It was his clan's insignia, which would help Eldon in the future against a predator named Ahab. Meanwhile, the predator who had been bitten by Eldon was transforming into an abomination. The black liquid had done its trick on the predator. It not only grew much larger in size, but it developed a pair of black eyes and limbs that came out of weird places on his body. Furthermore, it developed 12 mandibles. The mutated predator was so powerful that it was able to sever another predator's entire arm without much of an effort at all. Not only that, the mutation had pushed the hunter so far away from himself that he had become a cannibalistic monster, devouring his own kind. While the mutated predator went on his own kind of rampage, Eldon kept searching for his old friend. However, Francis now found himself on the wrong side of a predator blade. Furthermore, the xenomorphs that Eldon had brought along had now turned on him, going so far as to attack the mutated monster. But now that Eldon had been able to take down several predators, a few xenomorphs would have been a piece of cake for him. Desperate times, desperate measures. Eldon found himself under attack from xenomorphs, who had surrounded him from all sides. He had begun to think that they understood him and that they were his friends, but he couldn't be more wrong. It was like he had stirred the hornet's nest, but he was no ordinary creature. He was strong, intelligent, and could regrow his body parts. No matter what the xenomorphs did, he was proving to be a force to be reckoned with. Meanwhile, the predator who had caught Francis learned that he was already dying of cancer, and the predator let him live, at least for now. Meanwhile, the mutated predator was eating his own kind. Clearly, the apex hunter had not only lost his code of honor, but his mind as well. Seeing the ugly beast clearing predator bones was truly disturbing. And that's saying a lot because I've read a lot of Predator comics, but this one is just getting down and dirty. Meanwhile, Eldon received help from the predator who had marked his forehead. The predator flung his disc at a xenomorph that was attacking him. The xenomorph's head was slashed in half while the disc went on to stick on Eldon's chest. He used the disc to slay the other xenomorphs before going to find Francis. By now, a few xenomorphs had found the mutated predator and started attacking him. We all know a beast who was thriving on predator blood could not be brought down by simple xenomorphs. Of course, the mutated predator must have been extremely dangerous because of his new physiology, which was enhanced due to the black goo as well as the predator blood. We already know the wonders that black goo can do to the body. However, predator blood was also something of a miracle. Even being splashed by the liquid gives the subject enhanced life and prolonged youth. Now, not only did black goo and panther blood run in the mutated predator's body, but at this point he was also consuming predator flesh and blood. That ought to give him a great deal of additional strength, I would imagine. Anyway, by now Eldon had found Francis. But what Eldon did not know was that Francis had already set up a booby trap. As soon as Eldon reached the infirmary where Francis was present, the astrobiologist had him captured long enough to extract Eldon's black bodily fluids. Eldon warned Francis about the repercussions of such an action, but Francis was more than sure that Eldon's blood would treat his cancer. Francis should have paid heed to what Eldon was saying, because as soon as Francis emptied the syringe into his vein, a terrible mutation began to take place. Eldon was visibly affected by the current fate of his treacherous friend. However, before he could help Francis, the predator who had helped Eldon with the xenomorphs attacked Eldon. As the two of them fought, a fully mutated and hostile Francis broke away. Interestingly enough, he found himself standing against the mutated predator. The final crusade of the cursed ones. In the final issue of Alien vs. Predator Fire and Stone, the mutated predator attacks the mutated Francis. Francis was suffering from immense pain because of the self-inflicted condition, but the mutated predator was anything but understanding. All of Francis's prayers to be left alone and failed to find any hearing. Francis was no longer a sickly scientist suffering from cancer. He was now a cursed abomination who had gained immense strength. The mutated predator attacked Francis with all of his might, but Francis was able to defend himself well enough. The black goo had transformed Francis's dying cells into cells filled with fuel for growth. However, he did not want to fight the mutated predator and wanted just to be left alone so he could contemplate his new condition. Ultimately, the predator would not leave him alone. Much like Eldon had grown a maw in his abdomen, Francis grew one in the back of his head. Francis bit the mutated predator with his maw, and the attack left the creature bleeding profusely. Now, if black goo can give such strength to a sickly human, imagine what it can do for an apex hunter. This mutated predator was not going to back down easily. He grabbed both of Francis's arms and snapped them like twigs. But even with his broken arms, Francis rose to his feet and continued the fight. Having said that, the mutated predator would have ended Francis's life had it not been for Eldon, who had come just in time to aid Francis. Soon, Eldon was the one fighting the abomination. This gave Francis enough time to heal his broken bones, and he came to Eldon's help. The two mutated friends grabbed the mutated predator by its arms only to sever them, and once the mutated predator had been completely overpowered, Francis ended its life in one final strike. So, that's how the mutated predator's glorious spell of violence came to an ultimate end. Had it not been for the combined strengths of Francis and Eldon, the mutated predator would have continued to wreak havoc. But the story doesn't end there. If you want to know the rest of the story and what happened to Eldon and Francis, check out our video that details the origins and life of Eldon. In that video, we have explored 9 comic issues of the Fire and Stone series. And if you liked our content, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We appreciate it, all of you. Thank you guys, be safe, and we will see you next time.